turbo version of this deck, trying to go for the turn 1 attack with a plethora of attackers and that Mirage Gate, of course.
Yeah, I think we saw this build on stream from Victor Ong down in Orlando a few weeks ago. Jack Pritchard kind of has a fusion of a couple of builds here. He's got the Turbo Lost Box option, but he's also got Zekrom in here. Might be going with some slower paralysis plays if he needs to in the right matchups. In this matchup, though, he is going up against Goodra, which I think traditionally is a tougher matchup for Lost Box, but does the fact that this is the turbo build make it a little easier for Jack?
Yeah, I think it helps a little bit. You might be able to get off to a quicker start. And of course, having that Dragonite V is a great way to get a lot of damage down early, which is something that most of these Lost Box decks have not been able to work into the mix.
So Jack looks like he is going first, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if, I mean, I imagine, you know, typically with this Lost Box deck, players choose to go second, right? They want to go second, want to get off that turn 1 attack. So I wonder if this is a heads-up play from Kobe, recognizing what deck his opponent is playing and choosing to go second. Because I can't really imagine Jack chose to go first, but maybe he did.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting at this point in the tournament, what the players know about each other and the matchup going in. As so often as a Lost Box player, you try to go second, especially with the turbo version, and try to go for that turn 1 attack. But we'll have to see as the rounds or as this match moves on, maybe game 2 or potential game 3.
That Manaphy being in the active spot. Honestly, a card you like to get down in this matchup, as Radiant Greninja can be an attacker from the Goodra player, and Radiant Greninja is indeed the starter from Kobe Kawasaki. Jack is taking a moment here, checking those prize cards, not rearranging the cards in his deck. That's been a little bit of a hot button debate in the community the last couple weeks. Not moving any cards around really, but checking to make sure he's got the right amount of Pokemon and figuring out you know, his Luminion counts and all of those things.
I think that's been a debate for years now, Chip. We just, every once in a while, we run out of things to yell about, so we decide to go after this one again.
The cycle comes back around,
yeah.
right?
Well, let's use that Luminion, which obviously seems like a great card when you're going second, but go ahead and get that Colress Experiment in the hands. Maybe you can line up a really nice turn 2.
Yeah, I think Jack wanted to grab a V Pokemon here, as he has Forest Sealstone in the hand, and this can go on turn 1 now and fetch out the Battle VIP Pass, which is exactly what he's grabbing, and now that will likely be played, and I expect to see a suite of Comfies hitting the bench, potentially Radiant Greninja as well.
Yep, I think we saw the Scoop Up Net in the hand as well, so if you can start using those Comfies, get those cards into the Lost Zone, and have that Colress's Experiment lined up, then it'll be good to go. Probably some energies in the hand too, as we see that Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, Radiant Greninja being grabbed, so that probably means there's an energy card available. Concealed cards is one of the stronger abilities in the game right now. Of course, Radiant Pokemon are limited to 1 per deck, so a lot of players try to find a way to get a Radiant Pokemon in there when they can, and Greninja is the one that just seems to fit the best. Hand is a little awkward, though. There are a couple of Mirage Gates in this opening hand, which are nice to have, but not this early.
Right, you want to line those up, find them along the way. Don't find them in combinations off of flower selecting, of course. We're going to see that Radiant Greninja draw and finds the Escape Rope, which is a nice way to get this Comfey into the active spot.
And also, yeah, holding on to the net so that you can reset this Comfey potentially. Definitely a slow start. You know, this is the Turbo Lost Zone deck, and Jack is kind of left just chilling for a little bit. Does find an energy off this flower selecting. I wonder if we'll see the Scoop Up Net reset that Greninja here.
Yeah, how often do you see Turbo only have a single Comfey down on the opening turn and 1 card in the Lost Zone, but that's going to be it. Does not mean that turn 2 is not going to be explosive, however. There's plenty of ways to get cards in the Lost Zone. We know that Lost Vacuum as well can throw that Seal Stone or whatever card in there and easily get to 7.
Kobe now playing a Colress's Experiment, looking at the top 5. We'll place 2 into the Lost Zone and 3 into the hand. Off of that, Radiant Greninja was a pretty good grab. Does lose a Temple of Sinnoh, and it looks like, is that a staff? Boss's Orders promo. Ooh. Pretty nice to see.
Okay, flex on him.
Let him know, let him know. Does find a Comfey, has a few switching cards of his own in hand, also a Quick Ball. And I think if Kobe did indeed choose to go second here, it definitely paid off for him. You can see now Jack, even though he'll have the opportunity to play things like Colress on the next turn, he's not going to be able to play anything like Battle VIP Pass to get more Pokemon into play.
Yeah, it's certainly a detriment when you are the player who has to go first in this matchup, it looks like, from this perspective especially. So Kobe's getting off to a very solid start. Ooh, nice decision here. He sees a quick ball and another Comfey. If you wanted a Comfey, you can just go ahead and grab it. It's right there.
Yep. Put that into play. We can go right back into it, and we're just one Lost Zone card away from a Cram. And I think because of that, we'll see Jack promote the Radiant Greninja.
Yep,
always nice to
there.
get one of those Pokemon in play on turn 1 that can't be knocked out by Cramorant right away.
Especially, and we did see, I believe, held on to the scoop-up net as well. So if even the attack did occur, you'd be able to use concealed cards, scoop it back up, play it back down again, maybe get another use out of that.
Kobe now playing Quick Ball does lose the big Parasol, something that could be deceptively decent in this matchup. Of course, Kobe does play a decent amount of switching cards like we mentioned, so maybe it's not going to matter too much. Feels like he'll have enough ways to get out of the potential paralysis on Jack's end, but big Parasol is something that could be nice.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the early Zekrom hit the discard pile. There, of course, are ways to bring that back. We see the 2 Ordinary Rod featured in the list, but it's going to disregard that for a little while and focus on the switching effects, those item cards to help out maybe in those circumstances.
Yeah, here comes the Goodra. Doesn't really make much sense to go for Cramorant whenever your opponent sent up the Greninja. That 110 damage would be almost irrelevant. So grab the Goodra, make sure you establish that, get the energy attachment, and I think Kobe is already holding on to the V-Star in the hand, passing now back over to Jack, top decking that scoop up net. Easy way to get this Greninja out of the active and also use concealed cards multiple times. Starting off with that concealed cards ability, finds the air balloon and a Zekrom, it looks like.
Yeah, really saw the future basically. Went and grabbed that lightning energy instead of the escape rope there off of the flower selecting. Now has that to draw additional cards, make multiple uses of this Radiant Greninja as we see 2 energies found off of this Colress experiment. That can further draw into the deck if he so chooses.
Really solid. It did also find that lost vacuum. That's a key piece to getting to Mirage Gate a little bit quicker, as it allows you to place 2 cards into the Lost Zone, one from your hand and also that Forest Seal Stone, which has already been utilized on the Lumineon. Something Jack does need to be careful of, though, is losing too many energy cards to the Lost Zone.
Yep, valuing that lost vacuum. One, of course, could be used on that Forest Seal Stone to help out. You saw the 1 Parasol down. Maybe you're expecting to see that second one potentially, and you want to have access to removing that at some point, or any of the other complicated cards your opponent could throw your way.
Scoop Up Net can pick up this Greninja, like we mentioned. Will reset that now. Sends up the Comfey. We'll see 1 more card into the Lost Zone. We need 4 more cards in the Lost Zone to find a Mirage Gate play this turn. Can Jack do it? And what's his easiest path to make it happen?
Well, certainly you need to chain together some Comfeys, and we haven't seen the second one yet, which is starting to become an issue. Not found here, so Radiant Greninja is going to have to help out. Maybe that means you value this energy more than a Colress experiment, and sure enough, we see that. And, these next 2 cards are going to be pretty crucial.
And drawing 2 needs to find some more Comfeys. There is the VIP pass and the Quick Ball, so Quick Ball can pretty freely ditch that item card that is no longer useful and find another Comfey. Get another card down and the lost vacuum. We're getting closer.
It's obviously finding the Comfey is very helpful. The lost vacuum is really going to be what takes it over the top, and then finding which attacker you want to work into the mix. Obviously, a card like Radiant Greninja actually looks really strong. If you can find those water energies, you could take the double knockout there on both of those Comfeys, maybe put your opponent in a weird spot, as they only have the 4 cards in the Lost Zone.
We have seen Radiant Greninja, I think, used 4 times already for Jack, twice on turn 1, twice now on turn 2. So he might need to find something like the Ordinary Rod or Energy Recycler to even put some of these energy cards back into the deck. He does play both of those options. Jack does have Scoop Up Net in hand. That'll be pretty nice. Reset this Comfey from the active spot. Also could attach Retreat. Actually is holding on to the Air Balloon as well. A card that we see played in this turbo version of the build. Many other Lost Box versions not playing it, though.
Yeah, I think it's basically guaranteed here. The water energy in hand is the crucial piece, as you always want to have that 1 if you're only going to use a single Mirage. But with the Air Balloon, you have the free Retreat. Lost Vacuum brings you to 7. Just need to have the 1 water and 1 other basic energy in the deck left over. I think he's there.
The tough part here is, what do you Lost Zone from your hand? It's a bunch of Mirage Gates, some energy cards. You don't really want to lose the Zekrom whenever your opponent discarded a Parasol. That might be an option for you. So it looks like Comfey will be the choice.
That's where I was leaning at this point in the game. You're going to have enough draw just based on the Radiant Greninja, it looks like. And I mean, look how thin we're getting with the deck already. Radiant Greninja lined up there, looking for a Moonlight Shuriken.
Yep, Jack finding that turn 2 attack. Did go second, so couldn't attack on turn 1. Couldn't quite pop off like we're used to seeing this deck, but this is still incredibly strong. Taking out both of these Comfeys on Kobe's side is going to limit his options massively moving into this next turn.
I'm going to play through a scenario in my head of if you ever put the damage onto the Goodra V and try to line up for a Dragonite V knockout, but it just seems like when your opponent's at 4, it's so important to knock out both of the Comfeys and really try to limit the 7 into the Lost Zone. So I do like this.
Keep them off Mirage Gate as long as possible, and Kobe now has to send up one of these Pokemon, which will burn a switch card as well if he wants to switch into another Comfey.
Do you see the air balloon in hand, so could potentially work towards that, but you're going to have to get lucky off of the cards you find with Comfey.
See Quick Ball here being played, does ditch the Cramorant, or is thinking about it. Does have Escape Rope in hand, and that actually would put Jack in maybe a little bit of an interesting spot. I think it would be probably okay to lose the Manaphy at this point, and there, of course, is always the option to get it back with Ordinary Rod. For now, though, Kobe will discard the Cramorant. That would have been a decent attacker this turn, though.
Yeah, would have lined up decently with the rope, but maybe all the rest of the cards are a little too important if we do see the Manaphy promoted. It means that the Radiant Greninja probably wasn't going to be too impactful anyways. We saw the second Comfey hit the Lost Zone, 1 benched. I don't expect to see another Pokemon with under 70 hit points played down for Jack.
Sure. Kobe thinking through the plays, does have that Lumineon Luminous sign. Fetching a supporter from the deck is going to be the Raihan, who needs Mirage Gate whenever you can just manually power up Goodra the good old-fashioned way.
Yeah, just the one of there, and it's coming in clutch as it's going to find that energy. Have this Goodra V ready to roll.
Roll indeed. Rolling Iron incoming. Can also use this opportunity to get a Capture Energy to still set up a Comfey on the bench, so you have that option moving forward. And this is going to work out pretty nicely, as we know Kobe does already have the V-Star in hand.
Yeah, this is the tricky part when you're playing the assuming Goodra VSTAR version of Lost Box, is that you don't get through the deck as nearly as quick as the other ones do. You have this giant Pokemon in the active spot. You're not switching between all of these Comfeys, using Flower Selecting every turn and whatnot as your Pokemon gets knocked out. So you have to have that flex option there in the Comfey and hopefully some switching as well.
Rolling Iron will take out the Greninja. Kobe taking his first prize of the game. Jack can pretty easily promote this Comfey, and this is where things get a little sketchy as the Lost Box player. This Goodra has 278 hit points. It's now taking 80 reduced damage from this Rolling Iron effect. This is a really difficult Pokemon to hit through, and if you hit it really hard with something like, say, that Dragonite V, then your opponent can just Moisture Star, heal all of that damage out of play.
Yeah, do we ever get to line up the Wild Shock and the work that Zekrom in this situation? As there's an opportunity there maybe to paralyze this Pokemon and slow it down a little bit. Then you don't have to worry about the Rolling Iron on that second turn. If they do, it just have to pass over. 3
Comfey in the Lost Zone now. Jack was able to find the Lightning Energy to attach from hand, but I wonder how many energy are in the deck. He may need to find an Ordinary Rod, and is there? Oh, it has the Recycler. Okay.
That is clutch. This hand is so big. Look at that. There's a 3 Mirage Gate ready to go. Has the Zekrom too, and gonna get all of those energies shuffled back in. You can't make a better hand than that.
Yeah, that is definitely really strong. It's gonna just be 4 energies, not the full effect. No, it does have 5 down.
Okay, go ahead.
Put them all back in. Mirage Gate can grab them immediately. Zekrom plus the energy as well means you save the other 2 Mirage Gates for future potential attackers. Really, really strong. This is setting up nicely for Jack. The one thing I worry about with his board state right now, and it's not really necessarily something about the board state, it's more about just what he has access to. Doesn't have any quick balls in hand, has no ways to really find out his next attackers in the future. So that's the one thing we need to see from Jack's end. But this is something where he feels like he'll potentially be able to buy some time with this Wild Shock.
Yeah, this lined up so smooth. Having the energy is definitely that big piece that separates a lot of these players from being at the top, having every energy lined up. You don't have to waste that Mirage Gate. Instead, has the energy ready to go. Is going to line up for this paralysis. And as you were saying, it's basically just a second attacker away. Could, of course, just work in another Wild Shock and deal a little more damage on this following turn if there's no response. But we do see that rope.
Yeah, Goodra should be paralyzed, but yeah, we'll go ahead and turn that. I do think that Kobe has the escape rope in hand to get out of this. But the thing about playing escape rope is now it will send that Zekrom to the bench, meaning you're just going to get paralyzed next turn.
Yeah, this would be nice if we saw a few more cards in the Lost Zone. So if this Comfey was able to potentially find that Colress experiment, you could start working towards maybe featuring that Radiant Greninja if we do ever see that Manaphy knocked out, and it is promoted.
Yeah, thanks to that damage now on Zekrom, right? It's actually a real threat for that Greninja to take 2 prizes, and I think Manaphy is the best Pokemon for Jack to send up. You don't want to give up your Comfey. It's your way to draw cards now through the rest of the game, and you definitely don't want to give up 2 prizes on this Lumineon for free.
Oh, these cards weren't exactly the best. I think there's an energy at least, so you could draw with the Radiant Greninja a little further, but the Scoop Up Net would get you out of the active spot. I guess both cards do the same for you, but I think you need to find a little more with that Radiant Greninja. It's going to pass on that, though, throw away the energy, and this could be a slower turn.
Yeah, this hand is not the strongest from Kobe. Does have another Goodra in the hand, so we could see that benched so that it can become a Goodra VSTAR in the next turn. And he is also holding on to Roxanne. For now, will just take the KO. Rolling Iron gets rid of the Manaphy.
That was calculated. Look at that. Found the Colress experiment off of the prize cards. So playing those odds as opposed to the top 2 cards of the deck pays off.
Speaking of Colress, Jack holding on to one of his own. That'll be a way for him to find potentially another attacker. We're not quite into range of Dragonite getting a KO yet. We'd like to get the paralysis in once more if possible. A little awkward here. Hisuian Heavy Ball, I don't think is going to be too useful. No Pokemon, so that's a pretty easy choice. But the question now is, do you lose a Sableye or a Switch Cart? I think you're always keeping one Sableye, one Rod. And it looks like Switch Cart is going to hit that Lost Zone.
Yeah, do like holding on to the Sableye. You can sneak that in from time to time and set up maybe a nice knockout on any of these Pokemon on the bench at some point. Really just takes that extra damage counter on the Radiant Greninja eventually. And you certainly could find that when you're working in the knockout on the Goodra.
So Jack is not playing anything like Choice Belt. You don't see it too often in this Turbo Lost Zone deck, even though it does let you hit 280 with the Dragonite, because you really want to use 4 Seal Stone, so there's no way for him to reach for a KO on this Goodra. If he had Choice Belt, that would get him to 280. A couple Zigzagoon Pings gets him to 300, and that would be enough to get this KO. Might be a good opportunity to just go for that Sableye. Lost Mine for a turn. Set up some damage on maybe this Lumineon and the Goodra. You've got 4 prizes remaining, so I think your path to victory is set up to just knock out 2 Pokemon and close it out.
Yeah, I'm really torn here as with my read on my opponent's hand is that it's incredibly weak, and they probably don't have another switching effect, so Zekrom looks very strong.
Yeah.
The problem is they drew the perfect card, so you're going to get thoroughly punished if you see that Zekrom. It's very likely they'll find a way to move this around. So at least having the Sableye prepped and ready to go makes sense. Got that 11th card in the discard pile, or in the Lost Zone. Only need 10, so certainly some options left here. We'll see which one pays off here for Jack potentially.
Will attach the Lightning Energy. Actually thinks better of it, and that's kind of a tough call. Like, you put it on the Lumineon, it now becomes a pivot for you, but you don't really want that energy locked up there, right? So chooses not to put it into play, just getting 1 energy off of that Mirage Gate. Holding on to just 1 more Mirage Gate for the rest of this game. Will that be enough to get Jack to 4 prizes?
Yep, and on Kobe's side, you're wondering about everything right now. You start to think about any Pokemon that could pop out of this deck. You could even think about Kyogre in some instances, surprising you when you see your opponent holding on to energies like that. Are they building towards some wild attack? So you're thinking of everything. You want to keep that Rolling Iron moving, and you see this Sableye sneak in.
So many options here. How is Jack going to spread this damage? And I think Jack is maybe trying to still figure it out as well.
It's like, I'm going to use Sableye a lot, so let's get you within 12. Maybe get Radiant Greninja within 12, and then sprinkle the rest on a Goodra and make it look like we can knock it out with a Dragonite, or no?
This
just
is
going to
interesting.
place a lot on that Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, but
and that's the one Pokemon that could be scoop up netted.
Yeah, and doing nothing to the Goodra as well. I know your opponent could just use Moisture Star to heal all that damage, but now they don't have to use Moisture Star. You almost, even though you know the damage is going to get healed off, you almost feel like you want to place that damage now and try to force them to use it so that you can start chipping away at this Goodra eventually. Maybe Jack is trying to find a way to take 4 prizes without KOing the Goodra, but if Kobe doesn't bench another Pokemon, that's just literally not going to be possible.
Yeah, I think 4 damage counters there would have been the perfect number. You could have had your opponent in a spot where they have to potentially respect the Dragonite V taking the knockout, and then you can go ahead and use that Moisture Star and then try to set it up once more. Instead, you see the Radiant Greninja holding on to all those damage counters, and Kobe's going to have to make the decision of, do you just go all in with this Goodra VSTAR, or do you start to work on a second one here?
Kobe does find a switch off that Greninja, so that can prep him for a potential paralysis play next turn. The nice thing about this matchup from Kobe's point of view is that his opponent's not going to disrupt his hand. So whatever he can draw into, he'll know he can keep and have options for moving forward later on.
It finally reaches 7 in the loss zone, so we will see that Goodra V come down. Looks like one of each energy into the discard pile.
We know there's a metal in the lost zone as well, one on the active. So should have one of each at least available, and does indeed have that.
And we talked about not getting through the deck, but Kobe's done a fairly decent job now. It looks like maybe about 15, 20 cards left. So potential to reach for some game-closing plays, perhaps, as we get closer to the conclusion of this opening game here. Both players sitting with 4 prizes remaining.
Pretty interesting to note as well, Kobe's not playing any Marnie. That's a card that's become pretty popular in the Goodra deck. Usually players play a couple, maybe, you know, multiple copies of the card. His only disruption option is going to be the Roxanne. And, ooh, what do we think of this here, Kyle? Going for the Lumineon this turn. Take this out of play.
I wish I was a fish. It works pretty well if you can get that in with the switch. The problem is you're burning a switch, and you're up against a deck that likes to paralyze. I do like the fact that you're going to avoid giving up 2 prize cards this instance, and of course if you're playing that 7 prize game, you're going to easily sacrifice that Radiant Greninja along the way, and then you make your opponent work through 2 Hisuian Goodra VSTAR. So with that in mind, this looks fantastic.
I think Jack is going to be really happy that he held on to this second lost vacuum. Yeah, it was hiding. It was there. Jack making sure that there was enough energy to attack with that Lumineon. For a moment, it looked a little scary, but...
Chip, I'm too old for this.
You have a heart attack over there? Now Jack here with the Ordinary Rod in hand could get back an attacker or get some energy back for Sableye potentially. I don't think he's got any Psychic available at the moment. With Kobe choosing to send up this Greninja, it actually puts him in a great spot because Zekrom's not going to be an option for Jack. Jack can attack with it, knock out this Greninja, or use Escape Rope, and then Kobe could just send up the Hisuian Goodra V, which could evolve out of the paralysis.
Yeah, it looks like, once again, this is an opportunity where Sableye would shine. The problem is we don't see the energy that goes along with that. Would you have to use card like Ordinary Rod preemptively here and then have to Mirage Gate a single Psychic?
And that's tough too because you only have 1 gate left, and this is a tough choice. Yeah, throwing away a Rod. Has one in hand, but needed the Quick Ball in order to find potentially Dragonite this turn. That is something that can be a problem with these decks. Sometimes you just don't have enough outs to find your basic Pokemon, and for Jack, it's all about turn 1, VIP pass, getting a bunch of Pokemon in play. But the fact that he went first, he was only able to find 1, and then he had to use a Quick Ball to set up with another Comfey, and that is 1 less resource that he has available in the late game, and now he's forced to keep it here later on and lose an Ordinary Rod.
Yep, both of the Pokemon on the bench are lined up for the Escape Rope KO there with the Dragonite V, so if this...
Yeah, that is true because the Goodra did not attack and it's on the bench, right?
Yeah, this Dragon Gale looks perfect here for Jack. The problem is finding the last 2 prize cards, but we'll deal with that later. If you can remove one of these Pokemon from play, then you basically negated the whole potential of that Lumineon play.
Jack only has 1 energy in the discard pile, and he could have Quick Balled away an energy. He could have Quick Balled away an energy. Now he can only put back 1 energy card. He can put back a Psychic as well, but he can't power up the Dragonite this turn. He actually cannot do it.
Oh, does he have a Scoop Up Net to get the Zekrom in or anything.
That would be the other way now.
I don't know if he's got the cards for it.
If only he had quick-balled away the energy. It seems like such an easy choice, right? Get rid of that Battle VIP pass. I know I don't want that, but in this position, he needed to discard an energy so that he could Ordinary Rod and get enough energy in order to Mirage Gate.
Wow. Yeah, and we talk about this so often. It's so important that you make sure you watch every single energy.
Okay, this still works okay because, well, I was thinking he was going to promote the Zekrom and just hard retreat it, but is actually going to retreat the Luminion, but now you can't attach return to the Dragonite?
Yeah, it would have to have the double.
Yeah, but he's
Mirage,
already, I think this is his last,
one.
Yeah, this is his fourth one.
Go for Shred?
I think we're going for Shred here. And can go at least for the Lost Vacuum here. That's the benefit. We'll be able to get rid of the Choice Belt that's on Kobe's Pokemon so that this Hisuian Goodra VSTAR on the bench cannot knock out the Dragonite. It's a beefy boy with 230 hit points.
I guess, all in all, if you're not going to take the knockout, this is a great Pokemon to have in the active spot. You just saw your opponent use a switch. They've already used a lot of their switching effects, and there's no guarantee that this Pokemon is going to have the Mirage Gate ready to go. So you can feel a little comfortable with the Shred, but this is clearly not ideal.
Clearly not ideal. It's going to set up the damage and try to make something happen, but this was your opportunity to get 2 prize cards, and now it's just not going to work out. Cannot attach an energy for turn. Has that Lost Vacuum. Does have to lose Sableye, though, or Switch Carts, or an energy. Oh, can't attach that.
That's another attachment. You can't do that.
Yeah, you already attached to the Luminion for turn.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, Jack's realizing, I think, his blunder here.
Yeah, and that is worth concession, it looks like.
Yeah, sometimes you realize the mistake was made and it's just a little too late. Jack could have potentially done a couple things differently to still pull off the attack that turn, but honestly, I feel like Kobe was in a solid spot regardless. Had responses for whatever Jack was going to be able to do.
Yeah, I think the Luminion play was really cute. It was a great opportunity to remove that V from play, put your opponent in a spot where they had to use basically every resource left and have all the perfect cards. It looked like Jack actually had them, but just wasn't able to sequence it perfectly, and that's going to lead to us moving into Game 2 with Kobe up.
Yeah, Luminion's always an awkward attacker in these Mirage Gate decks because, yeah, you can attack with it, you play the Water Energy, you can get that liability out of play, but at the same time, you're burning a Mirage Gate for guaranteed only 1 attack. And Mirage Gate's one of the most important cards in this entire deck, so you have to make sure that it's really worth it. And I think for Kobe in that instance, it absolutely was. Take that easy 2 prizes for your opponent out of play, and that's what this Goodra deck is about, just getting 1 or 2 Goodra in play and making it as difficult as possible for your opponent to take all their prizes. Sometimes it's not even a situation of getting all 6 of yours, it's just denying your opponent as many as possible.
Yeah, playing that defensive strategy, it's cool to see, especially for Kobe, when you play 4 Mirage Gate because you want to find the 1 when it matters. You don't typically get to use all 4.
Yeah,
but
true.
The fact that the Luminion was thrown into the mix, we only saw like, what, 2 or 3 basic energies available, but gets to reuse those potentially, was going to have those available for the Goodra V that was in the active spot right there, and certainly would have had another big Goodra VSTAR ready to go.
As we're shuffling up for this next game, I think it's obvious that Jack maybe made a little bit of a misstep there on that last turn, but looking at the rest of the game, Kyle, do you think there's any sort of adjustments worthy of Jack making here moving into game number 2?
I like the fact that he's going to get to go second. That's going to be beneficial there. Obviously, potentially could see that big turn 1 turbo. I liked the opening Zekrom because we got to see a lot of those switch cards used early on, and of course the fact that the Radiant Greninja was used at that perfect time to remove the comb phase. So all in all, I think the strategy was pretty clean. Just found the perfect time to bring the Dragonite into the mix, but didn't have the energies to close out.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some information here from Jack. Does he want to go second? That's typically been the strategy for these Turbo Lost Zone decks. But in game 1, Jack went first, and we don't know if that's because he chose to or because Kobe forced him. We'll see what Jack's choice will be in this one. Prizes, a couple energy cards, it's kind of awkward, a couple switching cards. Sableye Quick Ball, we saw how hard it was to find basic Pokemon last game, but I mean, you got to prize something, right, Kyle?
Yeah, that's kind of how the game works. You gotta play with your 54 cards and figure it out, and sometimes they're very bad. Those are workable.
Definitely
certainly a lot of those would be welcomely found off of prize cards and worked into the mix. Looks like Kobe finds a pretty solid hand there to start this game number 2 off, and we will get that information of who is starting things off.
And we see the prizes now being laid out. Boss, a couple Comfey. We saw that be a little bit of an issue for Kobe in game 1. Both his Comfeys got knocked out, but of course he was still able to win. Well, it didn't matter too much. And, you know, I guess it's no problem if you prize 2 Comfey if you have your other 2 in your opening hand.
That's all you need. And especially if you can avoid having them both down at the same time and destroyed by a Radiant Greninja.
Sure. And that is something that Kobe has to consider. His opponent could go for Radiant Greninja turn 1. It's not even about just using Dragonite turn 1 potentially.
Well, gotta look at Jack's hand. Going second with double Battle VIP Pass is gonna be sweet.
Gosh. Yeah, I think Jack is gonna be very pleased with this setup. And indeed, since he lost that game, did get to choose in this one to go first or second, and chose second. So that gives us a little bit of information. Kobe almost definitely chose to go second in game number 1.
Oh, Kobe so close, because obviously the 2 cards in the Lost Zone, but did not find.
This game could be over,
Goodra.
Kyle.
You're
this
right.
game could be over. If Jack can find a way to get 7 cards in the Lost Zone and get Mirage Gate, get Radiant Greninja, he could pull off the turn 1 Moonlight Shuriken and steal a quick game 2.
We're gonna be dancing in the moonlight.
It's looking pretty solid for Jack, and especially if he's holding on to double VIP Pass in this hand, like you mentioned, he's going to be able to instantly get that Greninja. He'll be able to get a bunch of Comfeys into play, and can even get down a basic Pokemon V so that he can use Forest Sealstone to guarantee himself a piece of the puzzle.
Yep, obviously, big piece there is going to be Radiant Greninja. Got to get that down into play. You're going to have the potential to draw with it, with the lightning energy in the hand. The water energy clearly should be an attachment for the Moonlight Shuriken, and that's usually one of those big pieces that's difficult to find, having the energy ready to go. If not, you need to have the double Mirage Gate. So a lot of the pieces are actually lining up here, Chip.
Yeah, his hand doesn't have a lot of switching cards in it, and I don't see a Colress just yet, but we're just getting started on this turn. We've got Greninja incoming. We've got a couple of Comfeys likely to be used. There is plenty of opportunity here, and Kobe just has to, nod the head, say, okay, sure, you can have it. You got all that.
You got it like that? Okay. Yeah, this is where we might see the hedge. You could potentially use the second Battle VIP Pass, find the other Comfey and the Cramorant. I do like finding the V Pokemon. This opens up for the Forest Sealstone to be useful there. And, of course, if you leave that 5th bench slot open, Lumineon V is a great way to get that Colress.
Absolutely. So 3 Comfey, a Dragonite, and a Radiant Greninja. All choices. Here we go. Time for Jack to start drawing through this deck. We'll probably see that concealed cards first. That seems to be what the community has widely agreed is the correct sequencing. Go first with that concealed cards and then flower selecting from there. Yep.
You want to have as much information as possible before you make the tricky ones.
Ooh, escape rope. That's pretty good.
And another Mirage.
Yeah, Mirage Gate was definitely something that was needed. Flower selecting number 1, 2 cards. One of them's a scoop up net. Yeah, we don't care about Ordinary Rod. I think if you're Jack, you're smelling the blood in the water at this point.
Resources be darned. We don't need a second turn if we can win on the first.
Does have the Lost Vacuum in hand. Needs a tool card. Needs a Colress as well. There's that Colress, and can easily get rid of that Drapion V.
Yeah, if this finds a card like the Forest Sealstone, you have to think we're getting really close.
Forest Sealstone, no.
Finds the Lumineon. That's not the order we're looking for. Escape Rope is a beneficial card. That water energy is decent too.
Honestly, we're at the point where maybe almost any tool card could even get him there. It might be okay if it's the Air Balloon even.
Good point as well. Also have to worry about just the amount of water energies in general. We see 1 in hand, 1 potentially that could be tossed away, 1 in the prize cards.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you at least have that last one able to find in the deck. And if you draw into that flower selecting, you're in a bad spot. You're going to have to use an Ordinary Rod, and we've already seen one of those gone.
Could see a spot where, and I think he is going to Lost Zone this water energy. That's what he's debating.
If we see it off the flower selecting, I have to leave. I'm sorry.
Oh, and then we're going to find a situation where Jack's only play is going to be able to discard the energy through either a scoop up net on the Greninja again, or maybe through a quick ball and then Ordinary Rod it back. And an Ordinary Rod is gone. There's a Psychic. That's
Scoop
okay.
Up net.
Okay. We can keep digging. We're up to 5. We just need 2 more cards, Kyle.
There is another Comfey, so Scoop Up net lines up perfectly with this. We have the Rope for the 7th.
All he needs here, is a tool card. A tool card, and to not hit the water. Needs a tool.
I think he's got it, because he has a Rope in hand. Because this will get the 6.
No, because he needs 1 more retreat, right? Because he has to rope into Comfey.
He has double Mirage, so he can use that to retreat.
I think he only has 1 Mirage. I think one of those cards is actually the Lost Vacuum in the hand. 1 Mirage and Lost Vacuum,
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, so he's just short. Off of this escape rope. He's got to go for it here.
This one could hit it.
He needs to find a couple of things. A tool, a switching card. No, not even a tool anymore. Now it has to be a switch card specifically, and I don't see it. I don't think he's got there.
Yep. It's just going to be the retreat short.
A Mirage Gate also would have worked as a find because then he could attach retreat, but he didn't get there, and I think he has bricked out in this spot. So close. He got to 7 in the Lost Zone. He can play Mirage Gate, but he cannot retreat this Comfey. He cannot play a switching card. He's played so many already.
Chip, there's not even a knockout.
No Cramorant.
He didn't hedge at all. He did not find the Cramorant. There's nothing here that can take a KO on this Comfey. You can do 50 with a Shred if you want.
There are so many things he could have found. Forest Sealstone would have guaranteed it for him. Another Comfey maybe gives him 1 more look with a retreat, but he just has nothing. I think it's going to be attach and pass, and Kobe is going to breathe a massive sigh of relief.
Wow. Manaphy down.
And for Jack, you have to feel like this is such a missed opportunity. This is what your deck is meant to do. Go second, pop off, and steal wins when you can. And he just is unable to do it, coming up just a little short.
Yeah, all we're looking for Sealstone at any point guarantees that this happens. And had so many opportunities to find that, drew so many cards. Just 1 retreat short.
Wow, and now you have to wonder if Jack has maybe put some key cards in the Lost Zone that he would like to have access to, because this game is going to go longer than we maybe initially thought. There's 3 energy down in the Lost Zone. There's an Ordinary Rod in the Lost Zone, and that is the risk of digging a little too hard. I think it was correct for Jack to do it. Maybe a little unlucky that he just didn't get there.
Well, Kobe, big sigh of relief as he gets to start a turn. Which was not looking promising there, and finds the Quick Ball as the top deck, so that's going to be a welcomed addition. We also see the Capture Energy found here off of the Culver's Experiment. Get that 4th card in the Lost Zone, potential for even more here with the Flower selecting. And this is looking like a very solid turn 2 here.
Does find that Goodra V, exactly what he wants to do, try to get that Pokemon set up so that he can start attacking with a V-Star on turn 3. Wasn't able to find one turn 1. Will now have to bench it, play it a little slower. Does have a Quick Ball, could find another Comfey, potentially maybe his own Radiant Greninja could be solid.
Yep. Could even think about Cramorant in this position if you just want to work in that knockout at some point. We also see the Capture Energy that could help out eventually with that case.
Yeah, and Cramorant will be the choice, being grabbed to the front of the deck immediately. A nice way to steal a prize and protect your Goodra potentially on the bench. Obviously, Jack not playing any gusting cards. That's not typical in this Turbo Lost Zone build deck, something you don't really expect to see them playing.
I guess the one piece here that we're missing from Kobe's side is the Scoop Up net. If you find that, potentially you get to protect yourself from losing 2 prize cards to that Radiant Greninja, which, guess what, is going to take 2 knockouts if they're available.
Retreat into that Cramorant. Lost Provisions now providing no energy requirement for this Cramorant to attack. Spent innocently, takes it down, and Kobe strikes first, taking the knockout. Now Jack, with the top deck of the turn being a Lost Vacuum, he has to play this Course's Experiment and see how close he maybe was to pulling off the play.
Well, I don't know where these
he wasn't even that close.
Are.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Oh, and this is tough too. He's got his 2nd Ordinary Rod. He definitely needs to keep that. Are we just Lost Zoning Zigzagoon and Zekrom here?
Well, you need that Ordinary Rod. We threw it away too early.
You can't lose an energy.
Energies are very important here, and that Air Balloon, that would have won the game.
Yeah, that would have closed it out. That's the switch card he needed last turn and just did not have it. Jack will likely still go for the Greninja this turn. Like we mentioned, he's thinking through if he needs to play the Ordinary Rod first. I think he does still have a Water in the deck, but I think the question is, does he have a second energy? He has drawn quite a few of them.
Yeah, there were a Water and a Lightning prized, so got to take that into consideration.
There's
the Forest Seal Stone.
Yeah, a little too late. Jack wondering, where the heck were you last turn when I needed you most?
Yeah, we'll see that Ordinary Rod used a little early. That means we won't see any Pokemon brought back this game. Every single prize gonna be just that much more important. Ooh, wow, 3 energies total.
Yeah, and 2 of them from that Ordinary Rod, so now just 1 Lightning remaining in the deck. Greninja will attack. Moonlight Shuriken will target down these 2 Comfeys, more than likely. You mentioned in Game 1 how there could be a line where you put some damage on the Goodra a little early, but in this spot, Jack may want to do the same thing he did in Game 1, target down those 2 Comfeys.
Yeah.
Target down that draw engine. Try to keep your opponent off of 7 for as long as possible.
It looks so much better when there's 4 cards in the Lost Zone as opposed to 5. As
Right.
5 just immediately goes to 7 as soon as they have a Colress experiment. The problem is drawing with those flower selectings is so important to the engine for Kobe that you almost want to just take them anyways. And getting to 4 prize cards is pretty nice because you know you're generally going to have to knock out 2 Vs.
Air Balloon on the active can just pretty freely retreat into this Greninja. Jack has pretty much everything he needs this turn. Oh, and he is at 10, so that Sableye comes down. Not going to go with it this turn, but has that option moving forward, that Lost Mine available. Playing around a potential Marnie. We know, like we mentioned, that Kobe does not play any Marnie, but I think Jack wisely being aware of that.
Yep.
That could be an option for most of these Goodra players.
Right. Well, we do see that Colress experiment, so 7 cards going to be in the Lost Zone there for Kobe.
Yep, no Comfeys, no problem. Just find the Colress. That gets you to 7 regardless, and we could definitely see this Goodra get rolling this turn. I stole your joke from Game 1.
How dare you? You know what? I'll find an opportunity. You just wait, Mr. Chip. Yeah, this is obviously exactly where you want to be. The problem is Cramorant stuck in the active spot. That's what Jack was looking for. Found a great opportunity to snipe the bench, leave this Pokemon there. So we'll see if an energy is required or, of course, has that scoop up net lined up, which is also nice.
I don't know if he has an energy to attach from hand
That's
just
less good.
yet. Yeah, so, I mean, it could be a double Mirage Gate play. Would love to find maybe a Capture Energy. I actually don't even know if I see is there a Water Energy in the deck? That's something else to think about. He does need a Water. He needs 1 of each energy, right, for Mirage Gate. You do get to pull 2 energies out of your deck, but they do have to be 2 different types of basic energy.
We have learned that.
Yes.
We've seen that not work sometimes for players. And yeah, it's nice to have that Radiant Greninja now. With the use of the scoop up net at some point, this is going to be great, as you can, of course, still play that 7 prize game. Maybe work in this Radiant Greninja as a spot to work around those escape ropes.
So Kobe does have plenty of energy cards available in the hand. We're just hiding them at the back. Does find the Roxanne. Can't use that just yet. Has already played Colress this turn. And Jack has not taken 3 prizes quite yet. It's a good opportunity to go for that Ordinary Rod, though, placing back 2 Waters and 2 Comfeys right back into the deck. That's 2 pair right there.
Yeah, I got scared with the sequencing, but then we saw the Ordinary Rod.
Yes.
There was an opportunity to just draw into all your basic energies before the Mirage Gate. Now we see those right back onto Sui Goodra V, looking to be a V-Star very shortly.
Yep, I do believe has that V-Star in hand, and we know that switch Scoop Up Net is available for the switch to get this Cramorant out of the active, so Rolling Iron is coming out. Going to be taking reduced damage for the rest of the game as long as that Goodra keeps attacking. And now we might see Jack pivot into that Sableye potentially. And as Jack, I mean, he's got his hand on his head. You're still thinking about what you need to do this game, but you also have to think that, I mean, Jack just could have won this game. And like this game could be over. We could be playing game 3 right now. And Jack just whiffed one last piece.
Well, if you think about what if, you're not going to move forward. And right now, both these players, 26 match points, 2 wins are basically required if you want to make the top 8 here. It means you have to play very fast, very well. 6.5 minutes left on the clock. Seems pretty unlikely here for Jack, but he's going to try his best.
Yeah, a
up against
tie
the
at this
giant wall.
point for either player almost eliminates them from top 8 contention. Obviously, there's still more to play for than top 8. I mean, a top 16 finish gets you a decent chunk of points and prize money. Kobe actually got top 16 at the last Vancouver Regional Championships, so is at minimum trying to get to that point, but I think both of these players really value the win in this spot. Sometimes we talk about players being okay taking a tie, maybe against a bad matchup. If the game just takes a little too long, they're okay coming away with 1 match point. But at this spot, both of these players need a win to continue to push forwards to top cut.
Jack gonna get the same news he already knew off of that Hisuian heavy ball that he used earlier on in the game. And yep, 2 energies are stuck in there. No Pokemon to help you out. We've seen a couple of these niche Pokemon thrown into the Lost Zone already in that Zekrom. I believe there's still 1 more if you want to work that into the mix at this point. And finding the right attacker at this stage is tricky. It looks like Sableye is probably going to be used, but is that exactly the route you want to go?
Tough call here for Jack. It's either Mirage Gate or the Escape Rope, and actually is choosing to keep that switch card available, maybe hoping to... Okay, something he could do is he could, like, Sableye the Cramorant and then try to go for a double rope play next turn if Kobe only has the Greninja on the bench and reset that Rolling Iron attack. I don't think he quite lines up for a 1-hit KO on the Goodra with that. Have to be, like, get 2 damage counters on it somehow and then go for that next turn. And, of course, Kobe could play around that by just benching another Pokemon, so it's a little awkward.
Yeah, if you're really focused on the prize cards as well, you just go 11 Cramorant, 1 Radiant Greninja. Maybe you knock out the Radiant Greninja at some point, and then you just have to remove that 1 Pokemon V from play.
I almost feel like Kobe would love that, though. Like,
right.
Give me the lone Goodra, please.
If you do that, eventually one of those Comphase that was shuffled back in eventually gets to sneak back onto the board, and you play the 7 prize game regardless.
Yeah.
So. But these are all the things that Jack has to think about in this situation. There are not a lot of attackers left to close out here. Needs to find 4 prize cards and needs to do it very quickly with just 4 minutes left.
So we are seeing the Lost Mine. It looks like some damage is going on to the Goodra. It's going to be 100 damage onto the Goodra, 20 onto this Greninja on the bench. That is now no longer an option for something that Kobe can send up off of an Escape Rope play. It would get knocked out by Cramorant now, so I think that's where that 20 is coming in. But 100 on the Goodra, what are we trying to set up here?
Yeah, with the 80 reduction, I guess the Dragonite V still works its way through. And everything else on the bench, obviously, you're in Cramorant range, which is helpful if you can sneak that Pokemon in. You're really going to be looking for anyone to help out, and with 2 Ordinary Rods down, the energies could be tricky.
No surprise here to see that Moisture Star V-Star power fully healing this Hisuian Goodra, and we see the Choice Belt and the boss's orders.
Wow.
Takes out that Dragonite, and we know Jack is down both. Ordinary Rod will not have a way to get this Pokemon back, and it feels like such an uphill mountain to climb from this position if you don't have access to this Dragonite in order to be a heavy hitter for you.
Can we go back to Worlds 2013, find Dowsing Machine or something? We're in a lot of trouble right now. Jack basically on the back of paralysis and prey, trying to work through this Hisuian Goodra V-Star, which is nearly insurmountable.
That really,
270 hit points, reducing 80.
That really is going to be it. It's going to be on this Zekrom. Can you slow your opponent down? But Jack does not have any disruption in his deck.
He's got 5 cards left in there.
Yeah, he can Colress and see his whole deck if he wants to. But with no disruption available, it's so likely that Kobe is holding on to a switch card or an Escape Rope. Like, so many ways to just get this Pokemon out of the active. And what another tough choice. It's a Lightning Energy or a Sableye.
You can't accelerate them if they're not there. And you can't use that if you don't have another Psychic Energy. I don't even know if that's available at this point. We see the 1 on the Sableye. Was the other right there in the Lost Zone?
We have not seen the Recycler this game, right? So
no, that's still there. So Waters and Lightnings are available.
So we can get the attack off with the Zekrom. And the Recycler is there in the hand.
We didn't even get to cash in on the Forest Seal Stone
No.
before the V. And now if any V comes down, Kobe just knocks that out for the win.
Looks like Sableye being brought up. The thing here as well, though, is if Jack takes a prize on something like the Greninja, it looks like he's not going to. It's going to just be setting up an attack on this active. So playing around Roxanne maybe a little bit, but Kobe just has to attack twice. I think Kobe's in a position where if he just evolves this Goodra VSTAR, accelerates 2 energy cards to it, he's set up to just go attack, attack, win. And there's nothing Jack can promote that has more than 200 hit points.
Seems like the strategy's lined up there for Kobe to close things out. Just going to keep playing out the cards, try to make that 99 into 100.
Mirage Gate does only find a water energy. A little awkward. Does need 1 metal for the rolling iron requirement.
Yep. We talked about energy counts on the other side. For Kobe, it is the 4-4-4. So we see those 3 metals on screen with 1 in the lost zone. So 1 left. If he wants to work in that Hisuian Goodra VSTAR's rolling iron on the bench, potentially.
Does have a couple ordinary on the list. I think 1 has been used already. So would need to find that other one to get an additional metal energy back. Could also Raihan if this active goes down.
We're going to see the capture thrown away there. Draw 2 additional cards. Finds a switch, so even if the Zekrom sneaks in there, going to have that answer.
No V-Star just yet, and I think the attack is really all Kobe is able to do, going to just 1 prize card left. Jack left wondering what could possibly be done.
Well, he could have just won the game. It was 1 card away. That's what Turbo does.
Yep,
and Culver's experiment, there's one way to find a winner, is take all the cards out of your deck and see if you get to the next turn. But obviously, Energy Recycler going to just turn into the deck at this point.
We did just get confirmation as well. Time has been called. Jack is turn 0. Has no cards left in deck and does not see a path to victory. Extends the fist, and Kobe will get the win. Moving on to this last round, looking for 1 more win to get into top 8.
Do it for the goo. Goodra VSTAR moving up to 29 match points. An opportunity to potentially see the top 8 here, which eluded Kobe